Ambassador Zixthor's crystalline appendages trembled as he reviewed the datapad for the third time. The numbers couldn't be right. They simply couldn't be. Around the circular chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 47 species murmured in their various languages, creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and subsonic rumbles. "Order," High Chancellor Venax commanded, her four eyes scanning the assembly. "We convene today to address the human request for military alliance against the Cretan swarm." The mention of the swarm silenced the chamber. For 3 cycles, the insectoid nightmare had consumed 17 colony worlds, and no force had managed to slow their advance. The Council's combined fleets had suffered catastrophic losses in every engagement. "The humans claim they can help," Venax continued, mandibles clicking with barely concealed skepticism. "Ambassador Chen, you may present your species' contribution." Ambassador David Chen stood, his movements slow and deliberate compared to the skittering, flowing or hovering motions of his alien colleagues. He was unremarkable by human standards, middle-aged, average height, wearing a simple dark suit. To the Council, he was a curiosity, a bipedal mammal from a recently contacted world on the galactic rim. "Thank you, High Chancellor," Chen said, his translator chip rendering his words into the trade language. "Earth pledges its full military support. We're prepared to deploy immediately." Zixthor couldn't contain himself. "Ambassador, with respect, we've reviewed your submission. You propose to send 100,000 soldiers. The Vexnar hegemony alone committed 3 million warriors to the last battle. The swarm consumed them in 6 planetary rotations." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Thrax delegate, a being of living mercury, pulsed with what Chen's cultural briefing identified as derision. "Your species has barely achieved faster-than-light travel. You lack antimatter weapons, genetic engineering, or psionic capabilities. What could 100,000 primitives possibly accomplish?" Chen smiled, a gesture that unsettled several species present. "Perhaps a demonstration would be more persuasive than debate. If the Council permits, we've prepared a tactical scenario. The swarm has established a hive on Epsilon Tertius. We'll retake it." "Impossible," Venax stated flatly. "We bombarded that world with everything short of cracking the planet. The swarm adapted to every weapon we deployed." "Then we'll try something different," Chen replied. "Give us 48 hours. The vote was close, but curiosity won. What harm could these humans do that hadn't already been done? 42 hours later, the Council's observation fleet hung in high orbit above Epsilon Tertius. The planet's surface writhed with swarm activity. Millions of soldier forms, burrower forms, and the dreaded shrieker forms that had torn through Vexnar armor like tissue. "Where is this human army?" Zixthor demanded, his sensors detecting no significant military presence. "Arriving now," Chen answered calmly. Space folded and a single human vessel emerged. It was crude by galactic standards, metal and composite materials rather than living ships or energy constructs. But what followed made every sensor in the observation fleet spike in alarm. Drop pods, thousands of them, screaming toward the planet's surface in trails of fire. No shields, no gravitic dampening, just ablative heat plating and chemical rockets. The swarm's surface-to-orbit biological artillery immediately opened fire, but the pods were too numerous, too scattered, their trajectories constantly shifting with microthrusters. "They're using ballistic deployment," the Thrax representative pulsed in disbelief. "That technology is 3 epochs outdated. The casualties will be—" The first pod struck like meteors, throwing up massive plumes of dirt and swarm biomass. Hatches blew open and humans emerged. Zixthor watched in fascination as his tactical display updated. The humans didn't flow or phase or teleport like proper warriors. They actually ran on 2 legs, their movements jerky and inelegant. They wore mechanical armor, primitive by any standard, and carried weapons that used chemical propellants to accelerate metal projectiles. "This is madness," Venax breathed. "Those are kinetic weapons. The swarm's carapace can withstand plasma fire. But something was wrong. The swarm was dying. Humans moved in small groups, their formations fluid and adaptable. When swarm soldiers charged, expecting the paralysis or flight response of civilized species, the humans simply didn't stop. They fired, reloaded, and fired again with mechanical precision. When ammunition ran low, they switched to different weapons. When those failed, they used knives, actual sharpened metal blades. "They're enjoying this," Zixthor whispered in horror, zooming in on a human squad. One soldier was screaming as he fired, his face contorted in an expression the translator couldn't quite classify. Not fear, not even anger, something more primal. The swarm adapted as it always did. Carapaces thickened. Soldier forms began coordinating. But the humans adapted faster. They called down fire from orbit. Not elegant lance strikes, but crude explosive munitions that blanketed entire sectors. They deployed chemical weapons, incendiary rounds, and something the database identified as white phosphorus that made even the hardened council observers flinch. In 36 hours, Epsilon Tertius was silent. The council chamber reconvened in stunned silence. Chen stood before them, his uniform slightly rumpled, a bandage on his left hand. "You didn't send your best warriors," Venex finally said. "These were, what, standard infantry?" "Marines, mostly," Chen confirmed. "Some army rangers. Good soldiers, but yes, fairly standard." "They fought like they were insane," Zixthor said. "Multiple squad leaders sustained injuries but continued fighting. One of your soldiers eliminated 17 swarm forms with a damaged weapon before resorting to hand-to-hand combat. This behavior is irrational." Chen's smile returned, colder this time. "You want to know what makes humans different? Every species in this council evolved with natural predators, parasites, or environmental pressures. You learned to adapt, to think, to build civilizations, but you also learned caution." He gestured to the tactical replay still hovering in the chamber's center. "Humans, we are the predators. For millions of years we chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to throw rocks with enough force to crack skulls. We discovered fire and used it as a weapon. We fought saber-toothed cats, cave bears, and each other for every scrap of territory. Your people built civilizations by overcoming violence," the Thrax representative observed. "No," Chen corrected. "We built civilizations by channeling violence. Every human carries the same aggressive instincts that helped our ancestors survive the African savanna. We just got very, very good at organizing it." He pulled up a new display. Historical footage from human conflicts. Trenches, urban warfare, aerial bombardments. Conflicts that had claimed millions of human lives. "We've been fighting wars for 10,000 years. We've refined killing into an art form, a science, and an industry. We have officers who spend lifetimes studying nothing but how to destroy enemies more efficiently. We have soldiers who train until violence becomes instinct." Zixthor felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Not of the swarm, but of the species standing before him. "The swarm doesn't intimidate us," Chen continued. "They're just another enemy. And humans? We never stop learning how to kill our enemies better." High Chancellor Venax leaned forward, all four eyes fixed on the human ambassador. "You said 100,000 soldiers. Is that all you're offering?" "No," Chen replied. "That's all we're offering for the first deployment. Earth can field armies numbering in the millions. We have weapons we haven't used yet. Nuclear, biological, chemical. We have soldiers trained for every environment from Arctic tundra to ocean trenches. We have pilots who consider atmospheric combat sport." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "The question isn't whether humans can fight the swarm. The question is whether the Galactic Council is prepared for what victory looks like when humans wage total war." The vote on the military alliance was unanimous. As the session adjourned, Zixthor approached Chen privately. "Ambassador, a question, if I may. That soldier on Epsilon Tertius, the one who fought hand-to-hand after his weapon failed. Your species considered this heroic behavior." "We gave him a medal," Chen confirmed. Zixthor's appendages trembled again. "Your species frightens me, Ambassador Chen." Chen nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. "We frighten ourselves sometimes too. That's why we work so hard to be civilized. But when civilization fails..." He glanced at the tactical display showing the retaken world. "Well, you've seen what happens." As Chen departed, Zixthor reflected on a truth the Council would need to accept. They had invited apex predators to join the galactic community. The swarm had made that alliance necessary, but what would happen when the swarm was defeated? For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Zixthor wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake, not in fighting the swarm, but in showing humanity that they weren't alone in the galaxy. Out there in the darkness, other threats waited, and now they would face something they'd never encountered before. The organized fury of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of war. The humans called it survival. The galaxy would learn to call it something else entirely.